What's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 7 reasons you shouldn't mess with the US. I'm going to assume this is more or less solely based on the military strength, etc. Maybe it'll go into other things, I'm not sure, but we're going to just go straight into this reaction. Links also in the description to my Patreon where you can see reactions that I can't post to YouTube, movies, TV series, a lot of classic movie reactions that I can't post to YouTube for obvious reasons, but links are there for those who want to see it. And let's jump into this reaction and see why you shouldn't mess with the United States.
In a world where change is the only constant, one fact stands unshakable. The United States remains a titan of military and diplomatic strength. With a military arsenal that's second to none and strategic prowess that keeps rivals at bay, the US continues to enforce its global dominance. Every analysis and comparison reaches the same conclusion: the American armed forces are in a league of their own.
I guess these are all countries listed in blue that have US bases.
Think twice, or better yet, think 7 times before squaring up against Uncle Sam. Ready to know why? Buckle up as we break down the 7 undeniable reasons why challenging the USA could be the biggest blunder an adversary could ever make. First up, the Nuclear Triad. Since the infamous attack on Pearl Harbor, a day that will forever live in infamy, no foreign power has dared launch an attack on US soil. And here's a prime reason why: the formidable nuclear arsenal developed since 1945. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not just displays of raw power, they were a clear signal of the US's readiness to use such force. Despite the ongoing debates over the morality of these actions, they established a precedent of strength and resolve. The Cold War era watched closely, with the Soviet Union ultimately deciding that the stakes were too high to challenge such firepower directly. Since then, the sophistication and lethality of the US nuclear systems have increased exponentially. In 1952, it exploded its first hydrogen bomb, which was over 1,000 times more potent than the uranium bombs it had used in 1945. Soon, the United States developed the ability to do more than destroy enemy cities. It could destroy entire nations and possibly the entire world. Indeed, Robert Oppenheimer proved quite prescient when he quoted the immortal line of Hindu scripture, "Now I am..."
Is this Oppenheimer? This is actually the guy. He really looks like the guy in the film. Like, Cillian Murphy actually has a lot of features that look similar. They casted the right guy, didn't they?
Become death, the destroyer of worlds. Today, the United States has 5,550 nuclear warheads. That is the second highest total in the world, a bit behind the Russian number of 6,257.
Russia
but
goes
more
crazy.
than enough for its deterrent and, heaven forbid, offensive needs. The trouble was that the Soviet Union developed its powerful arsenal to counter the American one. Therefore, the next step was to create second strike capability. In other words, the ability to hit back with devastatingly destructive force even after a strike on the US using nuclear.
I've got to say, why are they all combining over the UK? I don't like this. You know, do it a bit more to the east or the west. The east or the west. I said it the wrong way. I mean, I know obviously this is just an image, but I don't like how this looks.
Nuclear weapons. The basis for this capability is what's known as the Nuclear Triad. The arsenal is built on 3 planks: land-based missiles, nuclear submarines with launch capability, and bombers laden with nuclear weapons. The idea is to make it nearly impossible for an enemy to destroy all of the American nuclear capabilities in a preemptive strike. That would allow it to strike any country that would dare launch a nuclear attack on the United States. This is how it works. The land-based missiles are maintained in hardened silos that can withstand just about anything but a direct nuclear hit. This is the most immediately reactive element of the American nuclear arsenal, built on up to 440 Minuteman III missiles that are ready to go 24 hours a day. Those powerful solid-fueled ICBMs carry 3 MIRVs, each containing up to 335 kilotons, with a range of 8,000 miles and a circular error probability of 725 to 925 feet.
So an actual nuke like this, all of the damage comes from this area. So this is all, I guess, just the stuff to like make it go quicker and to shoot it into the air and direct where it goes. This bit at the tip is what causes all the damage. Damn.
Of 725 to 925 feet. Each MIRV can hit a different target, so think of it as more like 3 missiles than 1. Each silo is 160 feet deep and protected by 3 to 4 feet of reinforced concrete. And as well protected as those sites are, they are the most vulnerable part of the triad. America's enemies know precisely where these silos are located, since most were built back in the 1960s. The nuclear bomber fleet is far more challenging to hit. It consists of 46 B-52H Stratofortress and 20 B-2A Spirit aircraft. They immediately take off and doggedly pursue their targets. The B-2A Spirit is complicated to intercept because of its stealth capability. The other two legs of the nuclear triad are essential, but the atomic submarine component is arguably the most crucial element in maintaining US deterrence. A fleet of submarines is constantly moving, and it would be almost impossible for the enemy to locate and destroy. It's made up of 14 Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines. Each can carry up to 20 submarine-launched UGM-133A Trident II ballistic missiles, with a range of 4,600 miles each. They come equipped with MIRVs that are accurate within 90 meters. The subs have two crew sets, blue and gold. They alternate operating them and ensure the second strike capability is constantly safeguarded. It seems operationally impossible to launch a nuclear attack on the United States without suffering a devastating counterattack. Most countries will be rendered helpless by this array of atomic assets. Even China, with its 500 operational nuclear warheads, would struggle to land a devastating blow on the US. The only country with comparable capabilities is Russia. Therefore, in that case, the United States depends on the principle of mutually assured destruction, with its chilling acronym MAD. The idea here is that if Russia tries to land a devastating blow on the United States, it will suffer untold destruction itself. This deterrence system is not foolproof, and there have been a few close calls historically, but there have been no all-out wars with nuclear powers since. MAD is one of the main reasons for that. Taking on the US nuclear triad is nothing less than a suicide mission. Next on deck,
Hopefully
the unrivaled
never.
US Navy. When it comes to sheer dominance on the high seas, no other branch of the US Armed Forces holds a candle to the Navy. Apologies to the Army, Air Force and Marines, but the facts speak for themselves. The Navy is in a league of its own. With unparalleled firepower and an unmatched global reach, the Navy ensures that the United States maintains control over the world's oceans like no other nation. Ready to dive into the details? Let's set sail and explore just how deep this dominance runs. The US Navy has 293 deployable combat vessels and around 4,012 operational aircraft. It also has 322,322 personnel on active duty. The Navy's raw tonnage is over 4.5 million. In 2009, that cargo was more than the 13 closest navies combined. Its dominance over rivals now is not as comprehensive, but it has more than double the tonnage of Russia, its nearest competitor. China has more vessels than the US, but that's because its navy is mainly made up of light coastal crafts. It's divided into 7 fleets, each of which can operate independently. This allows the US to project global force and, if necessary, fight a war on multiple fronts. Of course, its carrier fleet is the main component of US naval dominance. Until World War II, battleships were considered the main component of maritime supremacy. But that changed during that war. Aircraft have the upper hand over a surface fleet and can usually sink them. In addition, an aircraft carrier can be used against targets on land anywhere in the world. Therefore, it's become the gold standard for naval power and the global projection of US military strength. In particular, there were 10 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers of the Nimitz class and 1 Gerald R. Ford class carrier. The latter are intended to replace the older Nimitz carriers and are even more powerful and impressive. There are currently 2 carriers under construction, and a further 6 are going to be built at a later date. As awe-inspiring as the Nimitz class carriers are, the Ford class is even better. For example,
I think I've done reactions to on board and how life is on them and all the stuff you can do, and they are insane. The engineering obviously behind it has got to be the best possible stuff you can do, because they're using it for their military, and it's probably the most expensive. No, it definitely is the most expensive thing that you're going to build in the military. I'm certain aircraft carriers are the most expensive thing the military has to build in terms of in the Navy, and probably in the air as well. And they're just huge, aren't they? They're so big.
the older carriers still use steam catapults for aircraft launches. Meanwhile, the Ford uses electromagnetic aircraft launch systems, or EMAL's infinitely superior system. It also comes with an advanced arresting gear system that requires less maintenance and staff. It can also handle a more comprehensive array of aircraft. As powerful as these vessels are, they are not invulnerable. The Chinese realized that they could not compete directly with the strength of the USN carrier fleet. Therefore, they have focused instead on denying their power in East Asia. They have set up anti-access area denial systems that would make operating in contested areas difficult, but in most of the world, they can continue to operate virtually unopposed. Power projection isn't all about aircraft carriers. The US can also invade coastlines worldwide, even when heavily contested by enemy forces. Indeed, the US has a glorious history of facilitating logistically
Where is this?
challenging landings against well-entrenched enemies. Think of D-Day and Incheon as two particularly notable examples. To enable this role, the Navy operates 9 amphibious assault ships alongside 2 amphibious command ships and 12 amphibious transport docks, which allows the US forces to invade coasts throughout the globe. Then there are the more old-school surface fleet units. The USN deploys 13 cruisers, 72 destroyers, 3 frigates, 23 corvettes, 3 expeditionary mobile bases, and 8 minesweepers. It's exhausting just hearing about all these capabilities. Imagine how America's enemies feel. The US Navy isn't just a force on the water. It's a critical pillar of America's defense strategy, upholding freedom and ensuring economic stability across the globe. But the prowess of the United States isn't confined to its ships. On land and in covert operations worldwide, America's special forces represent another formidable reason why challenging the US is a perilous game. These elite warriors are reason number 3 to think twice about crossing Uncle Sam. When you think of US Special Forces, most of us have a few specific units in mind, but there are more of these than you might think. The United States Special Operations Forces (SOF) has around 70,000 service members, divided into 7 Special Forces groups, each containing several units. They have various specializations and functions, differing wildly from unit to unit. The best known are the various high-level commando units such as the Green Berets and Navy SEALs. What they all share is a specialization in which they particularly excel. However, not all special units are high-level combat units. For example, the Special Forces have several units specializing in the Psychological Operations Group, commonly known as PSYOP units. The 528th Sustainment Brigade specializes in supporting high-level operations under challenging conditions. However, the best-known units and the pride of the US military are their Tier 4 units. These are the Army's 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment, Delta Force, the Navy's Naval Special Warfare Development Group, usually called SEAL Team 6, the Air Force's 24th Special Tactics Squadron, and the Army's Intelligence Support Activity Unit. Because of the complexity of their operations, service members in the Special Forces tend to be a bit different from your run-of-the-mill G.I. Joe. According to the US Special Forces Handbook, the average member of one of these units is married and has at least 2 kids, is at least 29 years old if they're enlisted, and at least 34 years old if they're officers, has 8 years of experience in the military, receives cultural and language training, has attended multiple advanced tactical schools, is well-educated and likely to have a college degree, is a thinking athlete engaging in water polo, track, wrestling or football, and enjoys games that require problem solving.
So they're not only just physical machines at all, they got to be smart, they got to know their stuff. There's so many aspects to it. So they are just the top of the top people to have in these jobs pretty much. And I assume even when you've got all of this, they're probably still very stingy with who they have there. Not stingy, picky with who they have there. Because there's probably going to be a lot of people trying to become a special officer and all this stuff, but...
solving, like chess. It sounds like someone you would rather not fight against. No other country has such a wide array of special forces units, and few, if any, enjoy the same high training level. That means that when a uniquely challenging task requires a highly specialized skill set, the US likely has a competent and experienced unit ready to complete the job efficiently. From the elite prowess of the Delta Force to the cutting-edge advancements that redefine modern warfare, the US maintains a significant advantage. This brings us to the 4th reason not to mess with the United States: its unparalleled technological edge. Harnessing innovations that span from cyber capabilities to next-gen weaponry, America's tech superiority plays a crucial role in its military dominance. Let's delve into how these technological feats secure the US as a global superpower. A state's military advantages can depend significantly on the strength and productivity of their private sector and scientific communities. That's a field where the United States dramatically excels. Out of the 50 largest companies in the world, 33 are American. That's not only more than any other country, that's more than any other continent. Of course, among the top companies, many are technology powerhouses such as Apple, Alphabet, and Microsoft. Another component that feeds research is education. And of course, American higher education is dominant. It has 56 universities in the top 200, more than any other country. Harvard, Princeton, MIT, and Yale are often at the top. That matters because the universities and high tech allow the United States to develop the best military technologies, enabling it to maintain the qualitative edge it needs to defeat its rivals on the battlefield, or better yet, deter them from fighting altogether. The link between the two has had a revolutionary effect on warfare and civil society. For example, the internet and GPS are both technological marvels developed by the military in coordination with civil researchers. These and similar achievements have made the military more efficient while making large amounts of money for the American economy. They also made our lives much more convenient. A comprehensive list of the technological wonders regularly fielded by the armed services would require a much longer video, but they have all come together to revolutionize the way the United States fights wars and further cements its position as the most significant military power the world has ever seen. In 1992, the Pentagon published a report on how technology would completely change warfare. They called this trend the revolution in military affairs. The idea was to create a battlefield where the US could see all the assets its enemy brought to the table, ideally taking them out before engaging with the armed forces. It would also allow the US to jam enemy systems and send crippling disinformation without firing a shot. While the integration of information technology into the US military has not been perfect, significant advances have set it far ahead of its competitors. The Joint All-Domain Command and Control Program is the main effort to do so. It's designed to automate processing optical, infrared, radar, and other data observed by all armed forces branches. General Mark A. Milley, the 20th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, recently said, "You can see an ability to hit at range that has never existed before. Those two facts, just those two alone, indicate that we are fundamentally changing the character of war." Therefore, Milley believes that you could have entire tank units without crews, or entire squadrons of airplanes without pilots, or ships or carrier strike groups without sailors. Those who can master these technologies, he says, will have a decisive advantage in the next conflict. While it cannot afford to become complacent due to its private sector and educational advantages, the US remains ahead in the main fields of the technology revolution. Those include, according to the 2022 Congressional Research Service report, emerging military technologies, artificial intelligence, lethal autonomous weapons, hypersonic weapons.
Artificial intelligence in warfare, that is a scary thought, I'm not going to lie. That's something that I don't even want to think about, because where we're at with AI at the moment is ridiculous. Where we could get, I don't even know the possibilities, but it just does not sound fun.
Weapons, direct energy weapons,
and it's gonna happen.
Biotechnology, and quantum technology. Perhaps the most exciting recent developments have been in the field of AI. Luckily for the US, most leading actors in this space, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, and Nvidia, are all American companies. A great example of the use of new technology is the Replicator program, using the best American technology to create an army of thousands of cheap and expendable AI-enabled autonomous vehicles by 2026. Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks said, "Imagine distributed pods of self-propelled ADA2 systems afloat, powered by the sun and other virtually limitless resources packed with sensors aplenty, enough to give us new reliable sources of information in near real time. Imagine fleets of ground-based ADA2 systems delivering novel logistics support, scouting ahead to keep troops safe, or securing DoD infrastructure. Meanwhile, machine learning will make mechanical failures increasingly rare and perhaps eliminate them. AI's predictive powers can help identify most mechanical failures hours before they occur, and that ability will improve. After all, war machines are useless if they can't be kept reliably in the field." The sweeping technological advances brought about by the revolution in military affairs have not only made the US military smarter and more efficient, but also significantly harder to detect and devastatingly precise in its strikes. As America continues to lead in resources and technological development, these capabilities are only expected to grow. But what really sets the US apart on the global stage? Let's zoom into the skies and examine America's unrivaled aerial supremacy, a cornerstone of its status as a superpower. When one side has far greater power in the air than its rival, it can rule the skies. That's always been the goal of the United States, and it's one they have often achieved on the battlefield. The Air Force defines air superiority as that degree of control of the air by one force that permits the conduct of its operations at a given time and place without prohibitive interference from air and missile threats. In these cases, the enemy can fly but faces inferiority throughout the front. Meanwhile, air supremacy is a case of that degree of control of the air wherein the opposing force is incapable of effective interference within the operational area using air and missile threats. The US is taking measures and planning procurement to assure its ability to attain superiority and perhaps even supremacy. The Air Force is replacing its good, reliable F-16 Fighting Falcons with the F-35 Lightning II, arguably the greatest fighter ever built. They are supplementing that with 72 new F-15EX Super Eagle fighters.
Okay, so they're leveling up big time. Flipping out. So is this what it's going to look like then? Or I guess it's already what it is.
And working on the Next Generation Air Dominance NGAD fighter. Meanwhile, the Air Force is not neglecting its bombing capabilities either. It's buying 100 new B-21 Raider bombers. To support these operations, it's also bringing the new KC-46 Pegasus tankers into service and developing a stealthy tanker to refuel planes in the most adverse and dangerous conditions. The F-35 is set to lead American air supremacy well into the future. The power with which it operates has left veteran pilots in absolute shock. After his first test flight, one said, "It's like an 800-pound gorilla sitting on your chest." Another said that because of all the pressure, pilots come out looking like they're 100 years old. Makes sense.
Wow.
After all, this technological marvel has a top speed of Mach 1.6. The fighter can balance firepower and stealth. Indeed, it's likely the stealthiest plane in the category in the world, but if need be, it can carry an immense amount of firepower at the expense of visibility to the enemy. An F-35 can carry a payload of 4 500-pound GBU-12 laser-guided bombs, 2 GBU-12 aerial laser-guided bombs, and a singular but deadly AIM-9 air-to-air heat-seeking missile. Pilots understandably call this flying beast mode. The jet also has unparalleled sensor capabilities. Each F-35 comes equipped with a Distributed Aperture System (DAS), the Active Electronically Scanned Array (AESA) radar, an Electro-Optical Targeting System (EOTS), and other top-of-the-line electronic warfare capabilities. It also has a unique communication system that allows it to transmit data securely to any other F-35, even those flying for foreign military forces. America's main geopolitical rivals have developed their fifth-generation fighters, which they hope will be able to compete with the F-35. However, the consensus is that they have failed to achieve this goal. The Russian Su-57 and Chinese Chengdu J-20 are not in the same league. But the strength of the US extends beyond its own capabilities. It's amplified by the support of its allies. Let's delve into how the collaborative efforts of America's allies reinforce its position as an unrivaled global superpower that no adversary would wisely challenge. The United States has the most powerful military in the world. It's strong enough to accomplish most missions necessary for defending the homeland and securing its interests. The United States does not need to act alone. It has loyal allies worldwide. The most critical and consequential alliance the United States relies on is NATO. Created in 1949 to counter growing threats from the Soviet Union, it has since blossomed into an international organization working for democracy and global stability. It has, for example, worked together to fight the long and brutal war in Afghanistan. NATO is easily the most powerful military alliance in the world. It has around 3.39 million active military personnel, about 3 times as many as the Russian military. Together, they boast 22,308 aircraft, 2,258 military ships. NATO also has a powerful and well-coordinated bureaucracy and general staff. They have helped make the diverse militaries of NATO members compatible and harmonized to work together with the most significant efficiency level. Indeed, the military services of some of its close allies are designed to cooperate with the United States. That's how seriously they take their alliance with America. One great example is the Canadian military. Their military and strategic doctrine states that Canada is a strong and reliable defense partner. The Canadian Armed Forces, CAF, are prepared to conduct continental operations, including through the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, carry out training and exercises, remain interoperable with the US military, and respond to crises at home and abroad. While Canada is a somewhat extreme example of suiting their doctrine to US needs, other NATO allies have similar goals when they design their military forces and doctrines. It's also worth remembering that the US has loyal and powerful allies outside of NATO, spanning the globe. India, South Korea, Japan, Australia, and Israel are all among the most powerful militaries on Earth and are considered close allies of the United States. Therefore, the United States has seldom had to fight wars alone. It's enjoyed its most significant victories, such as World War II and Operation Desert Storm, with an extensive array of allied countries fighting alongside it. There are many other strong military forces in the world. Some have more soldiers, like Russia, China, India, and South Korea. Others can compete with the US in other metrics. However, there is one main reason the US armed forces are more dangerous than their rivals. It has the unique ability to project power and operate forcefully and sustainably anywhere in the world. The Pentagon defines a power project as the ability of a nation to apply all or some of its elements of national power, political, economic, informational, or military, to rapidly and effectively deploy and sustain forces in and from multiple dispersed locations to respond to crises, to contribute to deterrence, and to enhance regional stability. In this metric, the US is unparalleled. That ability is the sum of the other capabilities we've discussed. The Navy is essential in this regard. When there is a crisis anywhere in the world, one of the United States' first actions is to send a fleet or more to the unstable area. The mere presence of an American carrier force often has a stabilizing and deterrent capability. If that doesn't work, the Navy can use that to project aerial superiority in the crisis area. The United States allies are also instrumental in this effort. They provide ready forces and bases worldwide, which the US can supplement and partner with for theater operations. Thanks to the cooperation of its allies, the US boasts a network of 800 military bases in over 70 countries. That means wherever there is a need, an American military presence is already ready to take it on.
So does the US have... This is going to sound really stupid. Because I swear the US has some bases in Africa. But then when it showed like the US's allies, no African country was shown. So I'm wondering if maybe it has bases in countries that it isn't allies with necessarily. Which I assume it does, because again, I'm almost certain that the US has multiple bases in Africa. And not just Africa, other countries as well. So is that the case where they'll have bases in countries that aren't necessarily like... I guess allies isn't the right word, because I feel like allies just means they're good with each other. But maybe there's just countries that are not allies, but they're not... I don't know. I actually don't know. Maybe when it showed the countries that were highlighted, they aren't all just necessarily allies. They're just countries that fight with the US when it comes to them needing to fight them if it's in like a certain region near them and stuff. But then there's other countries that are US allies, but maybe they don't fight alongside the US, possibly. Yeah, I don't know.
Of course, American technological superiority also plays a massive role in this power projection enterprise. Satellites, smart bombs, drones, and advanced communications help augment the geographical presence of American troops and allies with the highest level of support anywhere. Meanwhile, the Special Forces and other units provide the US military with an array of rapid response forces. They can often set the stage for the deployment of larger, more conventional military units. The sum of all these factors is decisive. The United States can operate militarily on any continent, bringing massive force to the theater. That gives it veritable global supremacy. Its rivals cannot even begin to compete with that. So much goes into the power of a state. Military strength is generally divided into quantitative and qualitative. The United States has so much of both, as we've seen, but there is a lot more to it than that. The ability of a nation to project power also depends on the strength of its society, and that's where the US sometimes shows weakness. It takes a united, educated, and well-motivated civil society to keep military strength at its highest. It would be a terrible idea to mess with the United States, but if it wants to keep it that way, it needs to invest more in the health of its society and government. Military hardware, beneficial as it may be, does not accomplish anything on its own. Clausewitz, a renowned military theorist, famously said, "War is a continuation of politics by other means." The US needs to make sure its political institutions remain efficient and accessible so that US global military supremacy can be maintained.
Well, there we go. I mean, look, I know the US is powerful. Everyone knows the US is powerful, but I'm gonna be real. I'm happy that it is a country like the US that has all this power, as opposed. I mean, obviously Russia has power in its own right, but not as much as like the US in all aspects. Like, yeah, I mean, as a country that I feel like the US, the UK, or England, whatever you want to say, Great Britain, the relations are very good in the grand scheme of things, very good. So I'm happy that it is a country like the US that has all this power and strength, because it's not a threat to the UK in terms of they're gonna just go bad one day and just take over the world. I mean, I hope not, but yeah, I know that's not going to be the case. And also, fighting alongside each other when it comes to wars where there's threats from countries that may try and end the alliances that these countries have, as opposed to like, I don't know, Russia doing what they want to do, or China thinking they're going to do stuff in the future. They probably will. Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy it's the US that has this power. Not even just necessarily the military strength, but obviously just in general, the US has all this power with movies and stuff and society in general. And yeah, but the US is slow to anger unless you mess with our boats. Don't touch the boats. We Americans hate each other. Don't give us a reason to think otherwise. Yeah, don't give them a reason to bring them all together. 120 guns per 100 citizens speaks for itself. That always does blow my mind, because you go to the US, man, you're not just messing with the army, that's for sure. India is not a close and loyal. That's what I was thinking. India is not a close and loyal ally to the US. India possessed a double-faced configuration. I'm pretty sure India is quite close with Russia, no? I was kind of confused by that, but maybe there's a lot of stuff there. India is still trying to build its culture. When they were colonized, they were defeated. People are still like, oh, damn. I ain't going to get involved in that. Thanks. Before this, I was planning to mess with them. Well, Russia is a joke. Look at the war of Ukraine. But there we go. Let me know your thoughts on this. Hopefully you enjoyed. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.